Ambassador Choi Na-young stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The room was huge, with walls made of crystal that reached up to the ceiling. 12 different alien species sat in their special seats looking down at her. She had waited 50 years for this moment. Today the council would decide if humans could join them. The air felt heavy. Na-young could hear her heart beating fast. Behind her stood Captain Lee Min-ho, Dr. Park Ji-won, and Commander Kim Do-yeon. They had all worked so hard to get here. Earth had sent its best gifts to the council. They shared their music, their art, and their science. They helped fight space pirates. They built trade stations. They did everything the council asked. High Arbiter Velthanis rose from his crystal chair. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like blue glass. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the hall like ice breaking. "We have studied your species for many years," he said. "We have watched your wars, your anger, your chaos. We have seen how you fight each other over small things. You are too emotional. You are too violent. You change too fast. The council has decided." Na-young held her breath. 50 years of hope waited on his next words. "Humanity is rejected. You cannot join the Galactic Council. You are not ready. You may never be ready. Your species lacks the wisdom needed for galactic citizenship." The words hit like a physical blow. Na-young felt her knees shake. Around the hall, the other alien species nodded their agreement. Some looked sad, but most looked relieved. "All trade agreements are ended," Velthanis continued. "All human colonies outside Earth's system will lose council protection. You must leave council space within 1 standard year." Captain Lee Min-ho stepped forward. His face was red with anger, but his voice stayed calm. "We have helped you fight criminals. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have never broken our promises. Why do you reject us?" A different alien spoke up. This one looked like a giant insect with many arms. "Your species fights too much. In the last 100 years, you had 12 wars on your home planet. Civilized species do not do this." Dr. Park Ji-won raised her hand. "Those wars ended 60 years ago. We have been at peace since then. We have grown. We have learned. Growth means nothing if the base nature remains flawed," said another alien that looked like flowing water. "Your emotions make you unpredictable. Unpredictable species are dangerous." Na-young felt tears in her eyes, but she would not let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these beings who had just crushed humanity's greatest dream. "We understand your decision," she said, her voice steady. "But you are making a mistake. Someday you will see that emotions are not weakness. They are strength." The council dismissed them without another word. The human delegation walked out of the Great Hall in silence. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. Everything they had worked for was gone. 3 days later, they were aboard the ship Soul's Pride, heading back to Earth. The crew was quiet. Everyone felt the weight of failure. 50 years of dreams had died in that crystal hall. Captain Min-ho sat in his chair on the bridge, staring at the stars. Commander Do-hyun stood next to him, checking their route home. Dr. Park worked at her station, but her heart was not in it. Na-young sat alone in her cabin, writing her report to Earth. They were 2 days from the edge of council space when the distress signal came. "Captain," called the communications officer, "I'm getting an emergency signal. It's not from any ship in our database." Min-ho looked up. "Where is it coming from?" "Dead space, sir. Between the star systems. There's nothing supposed to be out there." The signal played through the bridge speakers. It was unlike anything they had heard before. The voice was deep and sad, speaking in a language that sounded ancient. Even without translation, they could hear the pain in it. "It's a distress call," Dr. Park said. She had stopped her work to listen. "I'm sure of it." The tone, the repetition. "Someone needs help." Commander Do-yeon frowned. "Sir, we're not supposed to be in council space anymore. If we respond to this call, we might get in trouble." Min-ho was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the council's rejection. He thought about their cold words and their closed hearts. Then he thought about what it meant to be human. "Set course for the signal," he said. "Sir?" Do-hyun looked surprised. "You heard me. Set course for the signal." "But Captain," the council said. Min-ho stood up. His eyes were hard. "The council rejected us because they say we're too emotional. They say we fight too much. They say we're dangerous." He walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Maybe they're right. Maybe we are dangerous. Dangerous to people who think they're better than everyone else. He turned back to his crew. "But there's one thing they got wrong. They think our emotions make us weak. They don't understand that our emotions make us human. When someone calls for help, we answer. It doesn't matter if they're our friend or our enemy. It doesn't matter if they're the same species or completely different. When someone is in trouble, we help them. Dr. Park smiled for the first time in days. That's what makes us human. Exactly, Minho said. Change course. Someone out there needs help, and we're going to give it to them. As Soul's pride turned toward the distress signal, nobody knew they were about to make a discovery that would change everything. In the dark space between the stars, something waited. Something the Council had forgotten. Something that would show humanity they were not alone in being rejected. The stars watched as the human ship flew toward its destiny. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their meetings, confident in their decision. They had removed another chaotic element from their perfect order. They thought their galaxy was safer now. They were wrong. The ship appeared on their screens like a ghost from another time. It was massive, bigger than any vessel the humans had ever seen. The hull was dark and scarred, covered with strange symbols that seemed to shift in the light. Parts of it were clearly broken, with atmosphere leaking from several holes. My God, whispered Dr. Park Ji-won as she stared at the readings. This ship is ancient. These metal signatures? Some of these materials don't even exist in Council space anymore. Captain Lee Minho studied the massive vessel through the view screen. How old are we talking about? Based on the decay patterns and material composition, Dr. Park worked quickly at her console. At least 10,000 years. Maybe more. Commander Kim Do-hyun shook his head. Nothing survives that long in space. The radiation alone would break it apart. This did, said Dr. Yoon Soman, the ship's linguist. She had been working on the distress signal since they first heard it.
Captain, I've been analyzing the language patterns in that signal.
The mathematical base is completely different from any known species. This isn't just old. This is from before the Council existed. The distress signal continued to play, its sad tone filling the bridge. Even without understanding the words, everyone could feel the loneliness in it. Life signs? Minho asked. 1, reported the scanner operator. Very faint. Whatever it is, it's barely alive. Minho made his decision quickly. Prepare a boarding team. Dr. Park, Dr. Yoon, you're with me. Commander Do-hyun, you have the bridge. Sir, we don't know if it's safe, Do-hyun warned. Someone's dying over there, Minho replied. We're not going to let that happen on our watch. The boarding shuttle docked with the ancient ship through an airlock that looked like it was designed by completely alien minds. The corridors inside were huge and empty, clearly built for beings much larger than humans. Emergency lighting flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. Engineer Kang Woo-jin worked to connect their translation system to the ship's computers. The technology is incredible, he said in amazement. It's so advanced that it looks simple. Like they solved problems we haven't even discovered yet. They followed the life signs deeper into the ship. The corridors seemed to go on forever, passing rooms filled with equipment they couldn't understand. Everything was built on a scale that made humans feel very small. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the command center. In the middle of the room sat a single figure in a chair that looked like a throne. The being was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow faintly. Its eyes were closed, and for a moment they thought it was dead. Then the eyes opened. They were deep blue, like looking into the ocean. When the being spoke, its voice was tired but kind. Dr. Yoon worked frantically with her translation device. Slowly, the alien words became understandable. You came, the being said. I did not think anyone would come. We heard your distress signal, Captain Minho said. We're here to help. The alien's eyes widened in surprise. Help? You would help? One you do not know? Of course, Dr. Park said. You needed help. We answered. The being was quiet for a long time. Then slowly it began to cry. The tears were silver like liquid starlight. I am the last, it said. The last of the Kethera. My name is difficult in your language. You may call me the Wanderer. Dr. Yoon leaned forward. The last? What happened to your people? The Wanderer's face filled with ancient sadness. We were cast out, rejected, made into nothing. Cast out by who? Minho asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. The Council of Stars, what you call the Galactic Council. We were once their 13th member. We were the eldest race, the teachers, the guides. For millions of years we helped younger species grow and learn. The Wanderer paused, gathering strength to continue. But the Council changed. They became rigid. cold. They wanted order above all else. When new species came to them seeking membership, the council judged them harshly. Many were rejected for small faults. Good species, kind species, were turned away because they were different. Dr. Park felt her heart sink. This sounded very familiar. We spoke against this, the Wanderer continued. We said that diversity makes strength, not weakness. We said that young species need time and help to grow, not judgment and rejection. For this we were called troublemakers, disruptors, dangerous. They exiled you, Minho said. It wasn't a question, slowly at first. They stopped inviting us to meetings. They ignored our advice. They made rules that pushed us away from our old homes. Then one day they declared us unfit for galactic society. They said our ideas were poisonous. They banned us from council space. The Wanderer looked around the empty ship. One by one, my people gave up. Some went to distant stars and died alone. Others simply stopped. They chose death over endless wandering. I am the last because I was too stubborn to die. Engineer Kang had been quietly working on the ship's systems. Sir, he said to Minho, this ship won't last much longer. The power core is failing and life support is almost gone. Minho looked at the Wanderer. Come with us. The ancient being stared at him. What? Come with us. To our ship. We have food, medical care, a warm place to sleep. You don't have to die alone out here. But I am not of your species. You do not know me. Why would you? Because you need help, Dr. Park said simply. That's reason enough. The Wanderer looked confused. Your species? Were you not also rejected by the council? 3 days ago, Minho admitted. Then why do you help? You have your own troubles, Dr. Yoon smiled. Maybe that's exactly why we understand. The Wanderer was quiet for a very long time. Then slowly it stood up from its throne. It was very tall, almost 3 meters, but moved gracefully despite its obvious weakness. For 10,000 years, it said, I have wandered alone. No one has offered me kindness. No one has offered me hope. And now, beings I have never met from a species I do not know offer me shelter. It looked at each of the humans in turn. Your council was wrong about you. Very, very wrong. As they helped the Wanderer to their shuttle, it looked back at its dying ship one last time. I carried the last memories of my people in that vessel, it said sadly. You still carry them, Dr. Park replied. In here, she pointed to her heart. Memories don't die when ships do. They live in the people who remember. The Wanderer smiled for the first time in centuries. Yes, perhaps they do. As their shuttle returned to Soul's Pride, none of them realized they had just taken the first step toward changing the galaxy forever. Sometimes the most important moments begin with the simplest acts of kindness. Behind them, the ancient ship finally died, its lights going out one by one, but its last passenger was safe, and that made all the difference. News traveled fast in the outer rim of the galaxy. Within weeks, every smuggler, traitor, and outcast had heard the story. Humans had rescued the last Cathara. More importantly, they had offered shelter to someone the council had rejected. Captain Shin Hyejin was mining asteroids near the edge of known space when she first heard about it. Her ship, Busan Dawn, was working alone in the dark, pulling precious metals from floating rocks. She listened to the story on the underground communication networks that connected the galaxy's forgotten people. Did you hear that right? Asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Bang Siwoo. Humans took in a Cathara? Nobody's seen one of those in thousands of years. I heard right, Hyejin replied, studying her scanner readings. And I heard something else. They're not asking for anything in return. No payment, no service, nothing. Just helping because they can. That was when the first visitor arrived. The ship appeared on their sensors without warning. It was small and fast, clearly built for stealth. When it requested permission to dock, the pilot's voice sounded tired and defeated. This is Pilot O Taewon requesting shelter. I heard you might help people like me. Hyejin frowned. The name sounded familiar. Taewon? Aren't you council security? What are you doing out here? Not anymore, came the bitter reply. They kicked me out last month. Turns out being half Zoran and half Velthak makes me genetically impure under their new laws. 20 years of loyal service doesn't matter when your parents are from different species. Hyejin felt anger rise in her chest. She had heard about the council's new purity laws, but this was the first time she had seen their effects up close. Doc and Bay too, she said. We'll talk. Oh, Taewon was a small man with features that clearly showed his mixed heritage. His Zoran side gave him pale blue skin. while his Velthak genes made his eyes glow softly in the dark. He had been genetically perfect for security work, able to see in conditions that would blind most species. Now he was homeless because the council decided mixed breeding was wrong. "I don't have much to offer," he said when they met in the cargo bay. "Some piloting skills, knowledge of council security systems. I can work for my keep." "You don't need to work for anything," Yejin replied. "You need help, we give help." "That's how humans do things now." Taewon stared at her in shock. "Just like that? No tests, no trials, no proof of worth? Just like that." Word spread faster after that. Within a month, 3 more ships had found their way to human space. Each carried beings that the council had thrown away for different reasons. Professor Lim Seong-jae was fascinated by the arrivals. As Earth's leading expert on alien sociology, he had never seen anything like this before. He set up research stations to study what was happening, but quickly realized this was more than just academic interest. "We're seeing the council's true nature," he told Dr. Park during one of their video calls. "For thousands of years, they've been throwing away anyone who doesn't fit their narrow definition of perfect. We're meeting the survivors." The most unusual arrival was Zix of the remnant Helix. It came in a ship that looked more grown than built, with walls that pulsed like living tissue. Zix itself was hard to describe as it could change its shape at will. Sometimes it looked almost human, other times like a flowing mass of silver liquid. "I'm a failed experiment," Zix explained when it met with Captain Minho aboard Soul's Pride. "The council wanted to create beings that could survive in any environment. They made me and others like me in secret laboratories. When the project was declared too dangerous, they ordered all subjects terminated." "How did you escape?" Dr. Park asked. "The scientist who created me helped me flee. She said I deserved a chance to live even if I was not what they wanted." Zix shifted its form slightly, becoming more human-like. "I have been hiding for 30 years, afraid to contact anyone. Then I heard about humans who welcome the rejected. You're safe here," Minho assured it. "We don't care what the council thinks of you." As more outcasts arrived, the humans found themselves managing an unexpected community. They established hidden bases in asteroid fields and abandoned systems. Each base became a refuge for beings the council had discarded. The Wanderer proved invaluable in this effort. Its ancient knowledge helped them navigate space routes the council had forgotten. More importantly, its presence gave hope to other rejected beings. If the last Cathara could find shelter with humans, maybe they could too. "You do not realize what you have started," the Wanderer told Ambassador Choi Na-young during one of their conversations. "For millennia, the rejected have wandered alone, believing they were truly unwanted. You have shown them they are not alone." The community grew rapidly. Failed genetic experiments like Zix arrived almost daily. Political dissidents who had spoken against council policies came seeking freedom. Entire species that had been deemed too primitive or too chaotic for council membership joined the Human Alliance. Dr. Bae Minji, a psychologist from Earth, worked tirelessly to help traumatized refugees. Many had spent years or decades believing they were worthless because the council said so. Helping them heal became one of the Alliance's most important tasks. "The council's greatest crime isn't rejecting people," she told her staff. "It's making them believe they deserve to be rejected." Captain Shin Hye-jin found herself coordinating what others started calling the Free Fleet. It wasn't really a military force, just a collection of ships and beings who looked out for each other, but it was growing every day. One day she received a message that made her blood run cold. A council patrol had discovered one of their hidden bases. The inhabitants had been relocated for processing. Everyone knew what that meant. "They're not going to let us exist in peace," she told the emergency meeting of human leaders. "We're becoming too visible, too successful. The council sees us as a threat." Commander Kim Do-yeon nodded grimly. "Intelligence reports suggest they're planning something big. Operation Cleanse, they're calling it. They want to eliminate the refugee problem permanently." The Wanderer spoke from its place at the table. "The council has always feared what they cannot control. You have created something they never expected, unity among the rejected. This threatens their entire philosophy. So what do we do?" asked Dr. Park. "We prepare," said Captain Minho. "We've shown these people that they're not alone. Now we have to show them they're not helpless either." Zix shifted in its chair, taking on a more solid form. "Many of us have abilities the council fears. Perhaps it is time they remembered why they were afraid." Taewon smiled grimly. I know all their security codes, their ship designs, their tactical procedures. They threw away a 20-year veteran. Their mistake. As the meeting continued, plans began to form. The Free Alliance, as they now called themselves, would not go quietly into the dark. They had been rejected by the stars, but they had found something better: each other. Outside the meeting room, thousands of beings from dozens of species worked together in harmony. They built ships, shared knowledge, and created new technologies by combining their different abilities. What the Council saw as chaos, they had turned into strength. The Council wanted to cleanse the galaxy of imperfection. They were about to learn that their definition of imperfection might be wrong. High Arbiter Velthanis stood before the Council chamber's great viewing screen, watching intelligence reports about the growing human alliance. His crystalline features reflected no emotion, but inside he felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. The situation has become unacceptable, he announced to the assembled council members. The humans have gathered nearly 50,000 rejected beings in their so-called Free Alliance. They have established 17 hidden bases and operate over 300 ships. Enforcer Prime Kekthar, the council's military leader, stepped forward. His insectoid body clicked as he moved, multiple arms adjusting data tablets. My scouts report they are using technologies we do not understand. The Kethera's ancient knowledge combined with these failed experiments has created dangerous innovations. Dangerous how? Asked Council Member Threndal, whose watery form rippled with concern. They have ships that can appear and disappear at will. Weapons that adapt to our defenses. Worst of all, they are recruiting from our own member species. Lower caste citizens are abandoning council space to join them. Velthanis felt his crystal skin darken with anger. For 10,000 years, the council had maintained order through strict hierarchy and careful selection. Now these emotional humans threaten to undo everything. They call themselves the Free Alliance, he said with disgust. They promise equality to every misfit and failure in the galaxy. This infection must be stopped before it spreads further. The vote was unanimous. Operation Cleanse would begin immediately. 3 systems away, Admiral Park Jungkook stood on the bridge of New Sol, humanity's largest warship. It was not the biggest vessel in space, but it was unique. Built with help from dozens of different species, it combined technologies the Council had never seen working together. Admiral, called Communications Officer Han Yujin, we're receiving encrypted warnings from our scouts. Large Council fleets are moving toward our positions. Jungkook studied the tactical displays. The Council was bringing everything they had: battle cruisers, carrier ships, planet destroyers. It was enough firepower to eliminate 100 worlds. How long until they reach our outer bases? 6 hours for the first wave, 12 for the main fleet. Around the bridge, beings from many species worked together at their stations. Zix flowed between computer terminals, its liquid form allowing it to interface directly with ship systems. Taewon coordinated with scout ships using his knowledge of Council communication codes. The Wanderer provided navigational data from star charts older than the Council itself. Orders, Admiral? Asked Captain Shin Hyejin, who had been promoted to lead the Free Fleet's defensive forces. Jungkook looked around at his mixed crew. 3 months ago, most of these beings had been living in exile, believing they were worthless. Now they were ready to fight for their new home. Signal all bases to begin evacuation procedures. Non-combat ships should head for the deep nebula positions. Combat vessels will form up at Rally Point Delta. Sir, interrupted Dr. Bei Minji from her position at the psychology station, we have 40,000 refugees who can't fight. Where do we put them? The Council expects us to run and hide, Jungkook replied. Instead, we're going to give them a lesson in what the rejected can do when they work together. The first battle came at Dawn Station, one of the outer mining bases. A Council fleet of 30 ships attacked what they thought was a defenseless target. Instead, they found themselves facing defenses unlike anything in their experience. Zix's bioengineered technology had created weapons that could change their properties mid-battle. Shields that absorbed energy attacks suddenly became offensive weapons, turning the Council's own firepower against them. The Wanderer's ancient knowledge provided tactics from wars fought before the Council existed, but it was human adaptability that proved most effective. While Council forces followed rigid battle plans, human commanders changed strategies every few minutes. They used unexpected ship formations, improvised new attack patterns, and coordinated with alien crew members in ways the Council couldn't predict. Their tactics make no sense, reported Captain Vexthor of the Council destroyer Harmony. They should not be able to coordinate so many different species in battle. Keep attacking, ordered Fleet Commander Nalketh. They are untrained rabble. They will break soon. They were wrong. The Free Alliance forces fought with a desperation and unity the Council had never encountered. Every refugee knew this was their only chance for freedom. Every human remembered the cold rejection they had received. Every failed experiment and political exile fought for the right to exist. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Council fleet retreated with heavy losses, while Dawn Station remained operational. Similar scenes played out across the Outer Rim. Council forces, expecting easy victories against disorganized outcasts, instead faced coordinated resistance from beings who had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The tide truly turned at the Battle of Sanctuary 7, the Alliance's largest hidden base. Enforcer Prime Kekthar led the attack personally, bringing the Council's most powerful battle group. "This time we finish them," he declared as his ships surrounded the asteroid base. No survivors, no prisoners. But as his fleet moved in for the killing blow, space around them erupted with ships appearing from nowhere. The Wanderer's ancient hyperspatial knowledge had allowed the entire Free Fleet to arrive without warning. Admiral Jungkook's voice came over all communication channels. "Attention, Council forces. You are surrounded. Surrender now and we will allow you to leave safely." Kekthar laughed. "Surrender? To rejects and failures? Open fire on all targets." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Council ships built for imposing order on defenseless worlds faced vessels designed by species working together for survival. Every advantage the Council thought they had proved useless. Their communication codes had been broken by Otaiwan. Their weapons were neutralized by Zix's adaptive technology. Their tactics were countered by the Wanderer's ancient wisdom. Their rigid command structure crumbled against human flexibility. Halfway through the battle, something unprecedented happened. Ships from the Council's own fleet began switching sides. "This is Captain Yelthara of the cruiser Steadfast," came a transmission. "My crew is half Velconian and we're tired of being treated as second-class citizens. We're joining the Free Alliance." More ships followed. Species that had been admitted to the Council but kept in lower positions saw how the Alliance treated all beings as equals. The promise of true freedom was too strong to resist. By the time the battle ended, the Council had lost not just ships, but the loyalty of their own people. Enforcer Prime Kekthar found himself commanding a fleet half the size of what he had started with. "This is not over," he transmitted as his remaining ships retreated. "The Council will never accept your chaos." "We know," Admiral Jungkook replied. "That's why we're going to replace you." Back on Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Velthanis stared at the battle reports in disbelief. Operation Cleanse had not just failed. It had made the Alliance stronger. Worse, it had shown other Council species that rebellion was possible. "Sir," his aide whispered, "we're receiving reports of uprisings on 12 worlds. Our own member species are demanding the same freedoms the humans offer." Velthanis felt his crystal form beginning to crack under stress. Everything the Council had built was falling apart because they had rejected one chaotic species. "Send a message to the other arbiters," he said finally. "Emergency session. We need to discuss options," but even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The galaxy was changing and no amount of force could stop it. The humans had started something that would reshape everything, and there was no going back. In space around Sanctuary 7, the Free Alliance celebrated their victory. But they all knew this was just the beginning. The real battle was for the soul of the galaxy itself. The revolution began not with weapons, but with words. 3 months after the Battle of Sanctuary 7, Council worlds across the galaxy received the same broadcast. It came from President Song Mi-hyun, speaking from New Geneva Station, the massive space habitat that had become the Free Alliance's capital. "People of the galaxy," she began, her voice calm but strong, "we speak to you today not as enemies of order, but as friends of freedom. For too long, the Galactic Council has decided who deserves to exist and who should be cast aside. They call this wisdom. We call it wrong." The broadcast showed images of the Free Alliance's communities. Dozens of species working together, building new technologies, creating art that combined different cultures. children from various worlds playing together while their parents collaborated on projects the council had declared impossible. We invite you to see a different way, Song Mi-hyun continued. A galaxy where worth is not determined by perfection, but by contribution. Where diversity creates strength, not weakness. Where no being is rejected for being different. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had never questioned council rule began to ask uncomfortable questions. Why were some species considered inferior? Why couldn't different cultures mix freely? Why did freedom have to be earned instead of given? The council's response was swift and desperate. High Arbiter Velthanis announced that the broadcast was terrorist propaganda and banned all unauthorized communication with Free Alliance space. But it was too late. The idea had been planted, and ideas were harder to kill than ships. On Veltros Prime, the homeworld of a species considered lesser by council standards, mining workers stopped their shifts to discuss what they had heard. On Crystal Nexus 7, artists began creating works that showed mixed species cooperation instead of segregation. Even on the council worlds themselves, young beings began questioning their elders about the galaxy's harsh rules. The breaking point came when Velthanis made his most desperate decision. Standing before an emergency council session, he announced his final solution. The chaos spreads faster than we can contain it, he said, his crystal form pulsing with angry light. There is only one way to restore order. We must destroy the hyperspace network itself. The chamber fell silent. The hyperspace network connected every inhabited system in the galaxy. Without it, interstellar travel would take centuries instead of days. Entire civilizations would be isolated forever. You would doom the galaxy to save your control? Asked Council Member Threndal, her watery form rippling with shock. Better a galaxy of order than chaos, Velthanis replied coldly. It was too much, even for the Council. For the first time in their history, member species began to openly rebel against their own leadership. The first to act was Velthanis's own sibling, Crystal Singer Welthanis, who had long disagreed with the harsh policies but stayed silent out of family loyalty. I call for the immediate removal of the High Arbiter, she announced, her crystal form glowing with determination. His extremism threatens everything our civilization has built. Others joined her quickly. The moderate members of each species, who had been quiet for too long, finally found their voice. Within hours, the council was split in half between hardliners and reformers. The Civil War might have torn the galaxy apart, but then something unexpected happened. A new voice joined the debate, broadcast from deep space directly into the council chambers. It was the synthesist, a collective consciousness that had formed when members of 12 different species voluntarily linked their minds together. Using human neural interface technology combined with Cathara wisdom and bioengineering from various rejected species, they had created something entirely new. We speak with one voice made from many, the synthesis said, its words carrying the harmony of multiple species thinking as one. We have seen both paths before you. The way of rigid control leads only to stagnation and death. The way of inclusive growth leads to possibilities you cannot imagine. The synthesists shared visions of what the galaxy could become, species working together instead of competing, technologies that solved problems instead of creating them, art and culture that celebrated differences instead of hiding them. Choose wisely, the synthesis concluded, for your choice will echo through time itself. The moderate council members made their decision. Led by Crystal Singer Welthanis and supported by reformers from 8 different species, they removed the hardliners from power and sent a formal message to the Free Alliance. They asked for humanity's help in rebuilding galactic civilization. President Song Mi-hyun's response was broadcast across the galaxy. She stood in the Great Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station, surrounded by representatives from over 100 different species and subspecies. We do not seek to replace one empire with another, she said. We propose something new. A galactic community where membership is not earned through perfection, but through the simple desire to participate. Where leadership rotates among all species regardless of their history. Where the rejected become the welcomed. The signing of the community charter took place on Nexus Prime, in the same hall where humanity had been rejected 5 years earlier. This time the room was filled not with judges, but with equals. Ambassador Ko Jinwoo, humanity's first representative to the reformed Galactic Assembly, delivered the inaugural address. We were rejected by the stars not because we were unworthy, he said, but because we represented change that frightened those in power. Today, that change becomes the foundation for a galaxy where no being is cast aside. No dream is deemed impossible, and no species faces the darkness alone. The Wanderer, now serving as the Assembly's chief historian, watched the ceremony with ancient eyes full of hope. Around the Great Hall, beings who had been considered failures and outcasts now served as equals with their former oppressors. The new galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts to resolve, prejudices to overcome, and systems to rebuild. But there was something that had never existed before: the promise that everyone belonged somewhere. 5 years later, the changes were visible everywhere. Mixed crews operated ships throughout known space. Children from dozens of species attended integrated schools on worlds that had once forbidden alien contact. Scientists combined different ways of thinking to solve problems the old council had considered impossible. The Wanderer spent its time documenting these changes, recording how a single act of human compassion toward one rejected being had started a revolution that changed everything. In its final entry in the Great Record, it wrote, "The humans taught us that strength comes not from excluding the different, but from including them. They showed us that when beings are welcomed rather than judged, they can accomplish miracles. Most importantly, they proved that the greatest civilizations are built not by the perfect, but by the imperfect working together." On New Geneva Station, in a small garden where plants from 100 worlds grew together in impossible harmony, children played while their parents worked on projects that spanned the galaxy. Above them, ships from every known species came and went, carrying goods, ideas, and dreams to every corner of space. The stars no longer rejected anyone. They welcomed all who came in peace, seeking not to conquer or control, but to belong and contribute. And in the vast darkness between the stars, new voices called out, knowing they would be heard and helped, because that was what the galaxy had finally learned to do. The rejected had become the foundation of something better than anyone had ever imagined possible. The galaxy had learned to be human,